Senator Reynolds.
Very much, Deputy President. I too rise to speak on the Fair Work Legislation Amendment Closing Loopholes Bill 2023. There is nothing more to say about this bill than it is a bad bill for Australia. In fact, it is disastrous. Now, Senator Sheldon just used the saying, "Looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it is a duck." Well, I can tell you what, there's a far more apt saying about this bill, and that is you can put lipstick on a pig, but it is still a pig. This bill does not fool anybody. You can dress it up in all of the pious things that have been said on the other side of the chamber, as if there's only one side of this chamber that has compassion for Australians. Well, you can be as pious as you like, but nothing will change the fact that not only this week has the Prime Minister lost the confidence of the Australian people because his word is no longer his bond. And not only that, it is a sad, sad day for this parliament, and I actually think for our democracy, because not only have we lost trust in a Prime Minister whose word is no longer his bond, but we now have an enormous bill before this place, before the House, the place of scrutiny, and we've got a bill that has been rushed through. We've got amendments, we've got detail in there that has been done as part of a dirty rush deal with two crossbenchers. And those on this side of the chamber have not even seen those changes, which are now being guillotined through this place tonight and tomorrow. I cannot think in 10 years of a more shameful lack of transparency, lack of honesty and lack of accountability to the Australian people through the House of Scrutiny and Review, through the Senate. And the Albanese's government's so-called Closing the Loophole 2.0 bill will not make life easier, as Senator Sheldon has just said. I challenge him, and I challenge Senator Gosh, who's now in this chamber. Find me one single business person in Western Australia, small business or large. You go. I challenge Senator Gosh to finding one person who will stand up, and not only who will actually understand, so somebody in the small business at the local shops will understand the 26 steps that Senator Scarr so clearly went through. He's a lawyer. He's an employment lawyer. And it took him 3 hours to figure out the steps he had to work through under this bill to determine if somebody is a casual employee or not. It is an absolute disgrace. And as I said, there will not be a single business. In fact, if they had been listening over the past few months, there is not an organisation who represents small businesses and industries across all sectors who has not been begging and pleading for this not to be rushed through, to be guillotined, to be subject of dirty closed deals with those on the crossbench who suddenly think their scrutiny is the only scrutiny that now needs to be done on big and complex bills. It is shameful. So why is this bill so bad? With what we've actually been able to scrutinise so far in this bill, why is it so bad for Australians, and in particular Western Australians? As Senator Scarr has said, it is impossibly complex, and the government has made sure we don't even have time to actually ask them the questions in committee. Do they actually understand what the answers to the questions are? And I can bet you anything, if any of those opposite had been asked in committee tomorrow and had the time to explain how small business works out the definition of casualisation and a casual staff member, not one of them, not one of those opposite would have been able to sit there and go through the 26 steps. It is impossibly complex. There is far too much uncertainty, which again those opposite are hiding from scrutiny of this place. So that's the first thing. It also adds additional costs to business, and it is complete fantasy for those opposite to say that with the cost of living crisis they have already imposed on the Australian people, that somehow they think this is going to reduce the cost of living for small businesses, the majority of which are families who have got business mortgages, they've got home mortgages, increased prices and just about everything, rising inflation, and all of a sudden they're going to be hit with additional costs and complexity through this. It is a disgrace. So the third reason is that it's making not just those businesses, the small businesses in particular, pay more for doing cost of business, but what are they going to do? They're going to have to pass on the cost to their customers, which many small businesses really don't have the option of doing because they've already had to rise with the cost of their goods and services in line with the cost of living increases from those opposite. Those opposite have also said that it will increase productivity. What rubbish. Any economist or anybody in business knows that these union demands will actually decrease productivity and decrease it significantly, and that does nothing to help put more jobs into our market. It does nothing to enhance competition, which is the lifeblood of our small, medium and large businesses. And it risks Western Australian jobs. You have to know that. It risks jobs in Western Australia and across the rest of the nation. The only ones to benefit from this are Labor's union paymasters. The only ones to benefit from this are the most militant trade unions in this nation. It's not the Australian workers. This bill also will be so destructive because it will institutionalise conflict in our workplaces, and workplaces, particularly small workplaces, who have worked together with their employees in great harmony and cooperation. This will impact on them negatively. The Labor government, in their speeches today, have also claimed it has made concessions for businesses. What rot. There is not a single business or business organisation that would be able to identify anything, any redeeming features in this. Now, the Labor government has failed to demonstrate in any way how these new laws will make it easier for businesses to employ people, how it will make it easier to create a higher skilled workforce, how it will actually increase productivity, or how it will raise living standards. When you're putting more pressure on families and businesses that are already suffering so much from the cost of living increasing under those opposites since they've come to government, they've talked about it, they've claimed it, but there has not been one shred of evidence in how this will improve the life of a single Australian. Now, as Brown Black, the CEO of the Business Council of Australia, said, unfortunately, these changes do not address the significant concerns of Australian businesses, and they will make our economy less productive and make casual employment and pay uncertain for over 2.5 million Australians. Now, during the summer break back in Perth, I visited many local businesses, and they all shared the same concerns. They were asking me, and a number begged, to urge this government to stop or amend this disastrous bill for them. So these measures are designed pretty much to do two things, and it's pretty clear what that is: to grow union membership, which has been declining for years because people have chosen not to join unions. And it is also designed to give unions effective control of our national economy, just in the same way that unions now completely control those opposite and the Albanese government. Gig workers, casual employees, tradies, sole traders, independent contractors, what do all these people have in common? The answer, Deputy President, is that none of these groups have any real interest in joining a union movement, as it, until this point, has been their free will not to join. This is a direct attack on their freedoms. And we've seen this week in WA what damage the union movement can do. The CFMEU have struck a 25% pay deal with Multiplex, which has significant implications for the construction and building industry in Western Australia, which is already under significant financial pressures. What this will mean is that building costs will be passed on to consumers, and it will put even further out of reach homes for first home buyers in Western Australia, at a time when so many building companies are already going out of business because they just literally cannot afford to do business anymore. And as Innes Willicks, the Australian Industry Group Chief Executive, said about the Multiplex deal, they're out of whack with where inflation is trending. They have no clear productivity trade-offs, and they fly in the face of the RBA's hope for wage moderation to help fight inflation over the longer term. The CFMEU will now obviously push to replicate these increases across the sector. Significant parts of the construction sector are now already under real stress, and big pay increases will only add to greater volatility. This deal will be so inflationary, which our economy, as we all know here, and anybody with a mortgage or going to the grocery store every week knows only too well. And I'll also quote Jennifer Westacott, the former Chief Executive of the BCA, and she said about this bill, "These changes will create confusion and extra costs for consumers. They will make it harder to hire casual workers and create uncertainty for employing anybody. Any government that's serious about the cost of living would not do this. They should not add cost and complexity at a time when people are struggling to pay their bills." We firmly believe on this side of the chamber that enterprise bargaining should be the cornerstone of our workplace relation system. It is necessary in order for us all to grow our pay packets, to improve job security, to bolster the flexibility that employees have come to demand and expect, and to boost productivity for our nation's economy. Australia needs a modern workplace relations system that delivers a safety net for workers, recognises the shared interest of managers and workers in an enterprise's success, and gives all enterprises the agility they need to compete and succeed. And any changes, we believe, must be designed to improve productivity, to grow wages and enhance competition. They are the ingredients of a successful economy, which allows people to be employed, to have secure employment, to have the flexibility in their family lives and in their personal aspirations. But none of these are things that we see in this current bill, and shame on those opposite for what they are about to unleash on Australia. Probably, and I'll finish on this, probably the most egregious part of Labor's bill is the new definition of casual employment that will replace the existing definition in the Fair Work Act. 25, if not 26 steps that a small business, a lunch bar owner or somebody wanting to put on a casual will now have to go through. Those opposite, as I've said earlier, none of you would be able to stand up here right now and even explain it here what those 26 steps are. And how do you expect a small struggling business person to do that when all they want to do is employ a casual worker who wants to come and work a few hours a week for them as a student, as a parent, as somebody else who's looking for flexibility? So, despite all of the rhetoric from the Albanese government and the union movement of a casualisation epidemic, the facts are clear. This works for millions of Australians, and you are taking away their choice. Shame on you for this bill.
Senator Stewart.